Getting ready to deal with complaints. Before you even encounter a situation where a guest complains, there are a few ways that you can prepare yourself to deal with the situation like a true professional. We'll be looking at your attitude when dealing with complaints, choosing your words, and types of apologies. Let's start with your attitude when dealing with complaints. Dealing with complaints and difficult requests is unfortunately the least enjoyable part of our jobs. We all make mistakes, and all of us are involved in misunderstandings which lead to confusion and unhappiness. However, as with all of the difficult things that we need to face in life, there are two attitudes when dealing with complaints. You could either be positive or negative. By having a positive attitude, you can see the situation as a chance to grow and improve your service. Like a true professional, take the feedback to your head, not your heart. Remember, the complaint is about an issue, not about you. Next, let's look at choosing your words. Now that you have the right attitude to deal with a complaint, let's take a look at some words and phrases that will come in handy. Use the guest's name. This shows care and personalised service. As always, use positive words such as yes, absolutely, and certainly. Avoid negative words such as unfortunately, problem, and no. Ask open-ended questions such as, "May I ask why you are unsatisfied with your wine, Mr. Jones?" Open-ended questions will allow the guest to give you more information. For example, they might answer, "Because the wine is too warm," in which case you can fix the problem. If you ask the guest closed-ended, yes-no questions, for example, "Are you unsatisfied with your wine?" they might simply say yes, which gives you no information to fix the problem. To finish, let's look at types of apologies. When apologizing to guests, note that there are two types of apologies. One, where you apologize that the guest is unhappy. For example, "I'm sorry that you're not satisfied with your wine." Note that here you haven't admitted that your establishment has done anything wrong, but rather are sympathizing with the guest's dissatisfaction. This type of apology is always applicable, because regardless of whether it's your fault or not, you don't want the guest to be unhappy. The other type of apology is where you accept responsibility for the problem. For example, "I'm sorry that the wine was too warm." Here, you have admitted that there was a problem and that it was your fault. So now, you should know more about your attitude when dealing with complaints, choosing your words, and types of apologies. Good luck applying this knowledge when handling difficult guest situations. The principles of dealing with complaints. Now that you know the attitude to adopt when dealing with complaints, let's take a look at a practical example. Matt is serving Mr. and Mrs. Jones when he gets called over to the table. Let's look at one way that Matt deals with the situation.
Excuse me, waiter.
What's the problem here?
I want to complain about this meat, please.
Fantastic. Is it overcooked? Maybe I could replace it.
Yeah, let me just get there. It's overcooked, it's dry, and it's tough. And then I want to talk about the chips as well, please. The chips are...
The chips as well, sir. What seems to be wrong with our chips? No one ever complains about our chips.
I was about to tell you. They're soggy, they don't have any taste, they're like moist and wet, and they just... Yeah, and then the last thing is I wanted to complain about the wine too. And that's got a hair in it, it's warm. It's not nice at all, so yeah.
Well, sir, have you ever considered that it's a hot day outside? The wine is red. It's served at room temperature. It's a hot day.
Oh, man. Can you believe this? I did consider that, yeah. That shouldn't be the problem though. The wine should be the right temperature.
Alright, let me take this away. And I'll try and see if the chefs have the time to do something for you.
Okay.
Right.
What do you think? Did Matt handle it well? Let's analyze what he did. When Matt was called over, he asked, "What's the problem?" You'll remember from Words to Serve that this is negative language and focuses on the problem rather than the fact that you're trying to help. Rather than allowing Mr. Jones to finish speaking, he interrupted him.
Then the chips are also soggy. They are
Chips as well, so that's very strange. You know, nobody ever complains about our chips.
Oh dear. By saying this, Matt is actually telling the guest that he is wrong, which is never the right attitude when dealing with complaints. Look at Matt frowning. That's not going to help. When Mr. Jones complained about the temperature of the wine, Matt started making excuses without even apologizing.
Well, sir, have you ever considered that it's a hot day outside? The wine is red. It's served at room temperature. It's a hot day.
By the time the guest complains, they don't want excuses. They want you to fix the problem. Before leaving the table, Matt only took Mr. Jones's plate, but didn't take Mrs. Jones's plate, which means that her food got cold while Matt was fixing the problems. This is really not how to deal with a guest complaint. Next, let's look at another way Matt might have handled the same complaint.
Good evening, Mrs. Jones. Good evening, Mr. Jones. Can I be of some assistance?
I would like to complain about my meat, please. I ordered it medium rare and it is dry, it's hard, it's like eating a leather sandal. And then my chips, they are soggy, wet and soggy, and they mush in my mouth and they don't have any flavor. And then also the wine that you gave me is warm. I didn't ask for warm wine.
Well, I understand, sir. Not a great situation for us all. Can I suggest that we take this back to the kitchen and have it replated for you, perhaps prepared at a temperature you would like to confirm with me?
Yes, please, yeah. I would like it medium rare, please.
Medium rare, fantastic. And the chips, slightly crisper?
Yes, please.
Fantastic, all right, I do understand. And the wine, can I suggest we move you on to a Pinot Noir, which we serve at 17 to 19 degrees Celsius? Might be perfect for your dinner.
Yes, please, thank you.
Lovely. Mrs. Jones, can I remove your plate and then we'll replate it back in the kitchen just so that you can enjoy it with your husband at the time?
Yes, please.
Fantastic. I'll remove this fish. Good evening again, Mrs. Jones. Mr. Jones, just to let you know, it's going to be another 6 or 7 minutes before your beef comes out the kitchen.
Thank you.
Perfectly cooked for you. And I've taken the liberty of supplying a glass of Pinot Noir for you, slightly chilled, like you asked.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And for you, Mrs. Jones. Please enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mrs. Jones. Your chicken schnitzel.
Oh, thank you.
Pleasure. And Mr. Jones, your steak and chips, medium rare.
Thank you very much.
Please enjoy. Let me know if you need any other assistance whatsoever.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Please enjoy. Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jones, just checking on your meal. How are you finding your steak?
Perfect, thank you. It's very nice.
And chips on both sides, are they crispy? I mean, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure. Please enjoy the rest of your meal.
Thank you.
When Matt approached the table, he used the guests' names. He also said, "How may I be of assistance?" This is the right way to offer help. Matt gave Mr. Jones time to give his full complaint without interrupting him, while listening actively and nodding. After listening to the full complaint, Matt repeated it back to Mr. Jones for confirmation, letting him know that he was heard and that Matt understood. Matt also offered solutions, remaking the dish and suggesting another wine at the desired temperature. Matt took both Mr. and Mrs. Jones' dishes back to the kitchen so that Mrs. Jones's plate was also kept warm. Matt then took ownership of the problem. He brought Mr. and Mrs. Jones the new wine and some clean cutlery, and, when doing so, also informed Mr. Jones of the time frame for the problem to be fixed. Finally, Matt followed up. He went back to the Joneses and checked that Mr. Jones was now satisfied with how the problem was solved. Well done, Matt. To summarize, here's what Matt did right, and what you should do when dealing with complaints. Use the guest's name. Listen to the whole complaint. There might be more than one problem. Listen actively. Confirm the complaint by repeating it back to the guest. Apologize and offer solutions. In the case of food, keep both guests' dishes warm. Take ownership of the problem. Make sure it's fixed. Give the guests feedback about time frames. And lastly, follow up to ensure that the guest is satisfied. Good luck applying these principles in dealing with complaints at your establishment. Guests with unrealistic expectations. Mr. Morrison is a guest at your establishment, Jackson's Place. Throughout the evening, you can see that he seems to be waiting for something to happen. He calls you over and complains that the show hasn't started yet. This is awkward because there is no show scheduled for that evening, or any evening at your establishment. As it turns out, he was under the impression that Michael Jackson would be performing there tonight. Oh dear, what should you do? We'll take a look at how to ask open-ended questions, explain the situation, and offer solutions. Firstly, ask some open-ended questions. Open-ended questions aim to try and uncover the guest's exact expectations and the source of these expectations. The guest's exact expectations allow us to see where the expectations were misinformed or unrealistic. For example, he may actually be looking for the Michael Jackson tribute show next door, or he may simply be disappointed that your establishment isn't playing any of Michael Jackson's songs. In other words, ask the guest, "Mr. Morrison, which kind of show were you expecting here this evening?" He will then clarify that he was expecting Mr. Jackson in the flesh. Before you start to think of solutions, you also need to establish the source of these expectations. For example, he might have read in a magazine or was informed by a tour operator. As it turns out, Mr. Morrison heard it from a friend. Obviously, he was misinformed on a number of levels. However, he is now at your property and you should try to accommodate him. Now let's look at how to explain the situation. It is necessary to politely explain where the information they heard or the expectations they brought are incorrect, and saying that you understand that the confusion must be frustrating for them. However, as this error is not your fault or your property's fault, you must explain in detail the actual information and the limitations that make their expectations unrealistic. Lastly, let's move on to offering solutions. Offer solutions you can deliver on. For example, if it suits your establishment's style, play some Michael Jackson over the speakers. Or find out about Michael Jackson tribute shows in the area. Be creative. Think of other ways to accommodate the guest. So, the way to handle guests with unrealistic expectations is to ask open-ended questions, explain the situation, and offer solutions. Good luck dealing with guests with unrealistic expectations at your establishment. The Drama Queen Complainer. What's the best way to deal with a drama queen complainer? We'll be looking at the example of Mrs. Hanson to try to uncover some of the principles in dealing with a drama queen complainer. Meet the drama queen complainer. Mrs. Hanson calls you over with huge fanfare and complains loudly that her tea is cold. In fact, she says, while you're actively listening, it's not just cold, she's sure you put it in the freezer before delivering it to the table. She is complaining loudly and starting to embarrass the guests at her table and disturb the other guests. This is a classic case of the drama queen complainer. Behind all of the loudness, emotion, and fireworks, there is usually a simple problem that can be solved easily. So how should you go about this? Option 1. Miss Hanson, please calm down. You are overreacting and this can be easily solved. Option 2. Don't worry, Miss Hanson. I'll bring you a new hot cup of tea so that you can stop disturbing the other guests. Option 3. Taste the tea yourself to confirm that it is cold, and then apologize. I'm so sorry, Miss Hanson. I'll fetch you a new cup immediately. Option 4. Miss Hanson, may I just confirm? Your tea is not hot enough for your liking. I'm sorry about this. I will replace it with a fresh cup immediately. Let's see what happens if you chose option 1. Mrs. Hanson gets even more upset and storms out. Never tell a guest to calm down. This usually makes matters worse, because it will make them feel that they're not being heard and the focus is on their actions rather than their problem. So the first point to remember is make the guest feel heard. If you chose option 2, it is similar. While you do provide a solution, you are also focusing on Mrs. Hanson's actions, not the problem. She only gets more upset and further embarrasses the other guests. So the next important point to remember is don't focus on their irrational actions. Focus on a solution. Hopefully you didn't choose option 3. You shouldn't taste the guests' drinks or food. The best thing to do is option 4. Confirm the problem, provide a solution, and apologize without focusing on Mrs. Hanson's irrational actions. Now that she's been heard, she'll likely calm down. With an understanding and a solution, the drama queen has nothing to complain about anymore. So from here, the next important points are apologize and provide a solution. This leaves the drama queen with nothing to complain about. So to recap, in dealing with a drama queen complainer, you should make the guest feel heard, don't focus on their actions, and apologize and provide a solution.